Armando Torres, A Warrior's Guide to the Ten Commandments. Profit at a Minimum Cost. From the book, The Secret of the Plumed Serpent. In the liturgies in which we often participated as part of the group's religious practice, we learned the particulars of the Catholic faith. I resented contact with religion at first, believing that I had already transcended that stage of my life. I did not like it at all. I didn't like the idea of wasting my time listening to nonsense. But the matter was presented to me as a challenge, so I consented and accepted it as a task. I remember reading in one of the Nagual Carlos Castaneda's books that it is not what we like, but what we do not like that counts in the struggle for impeccability. Being impeccable only under perfect conditions meant being a straw warrior, because straw warriors, when confronted with unexpected situations over which they had no control, fell apart and their self-importance re-emerged at absurd levels. Whenever we had a chance, at Mass or during prayer, that we were regularly held in the homes of the faithful, we would discuss the details of these doctrines. On one occasion, the sermon was about the Ten Commandments. Later, back at the house, the healers gave us their version and their interpretation of the commandments. Don Melchor said, first of all, it's necessary to expand the vision of the humanized God we inherited from the Europeans. The idea of God as a bearded man seated on a throne in the manner of the medieval kings is childish. Believing in something like that is tantamount to believing in children's stories, like the story of Santa Claus, which is presented to the infants as truth and later ends up as the first great disappointment of their lives. Not so much because Santa Claus doesn't exist, but because their parents lied. It is at this point that lying becomes part of the child's world, and it is actually the moment when children lose their innocence. To reach God, we need to recover our original purity, which gave us the ability to believe in Santa Claus. The only way to conceive of God is abstractly, because everything is vibrating energy. When we realize that we are part of this same energy, we integrate with God. Consider the billions of galaxies that exist in the universe, each with its billions of suns, each of them with planets revolving around it, all of it moving like clockwork. It is obvious, even to the atheist, that there is a powerful creative force and work behind all of that. Even they intuit that everything exists as part of something's immeasurable and incomprehensible intelligence. That something is what people call God. Each religion and each culture has a different name for that infinity. Scientists call that nameless force gravity without understanding their words. We use names that come to us from antiquity, but names are really irrelevant. What matters is the effort one makes to come into direct contact with this force, with God. Contrary to the teachings brought by the conquistadors who introduced us to a humanized God, we teach ourselves that God is an impersonal force encompassing absolutely everything that exists. As it has been said, that force is not at all interested in man as a species, let alone in a particular individual. So it is useless to pray to it or to ask anything of it. The human part of the eagle is too small to sway it. Sorcerers, however, know that there are ways to connect with that power. Our goal as healers is exactly that, to unite with God, with the intent of all things. I remember my nervousness and unease when we were ordered to strictly observe the rules of the church. At first I was confused and distressed by those demands, but later, as I struggled to meet them, I realized that there was more to it than I thought. Following the Ten Commandments helps a warrior achieve one of the most coveted goals of a sorcerer, impeccability, or profit at minimum cost, as they say. In the sessions in which we participated, we were taught the laws, commandments, and rules until we had learned them all. At the beginning, I really found it all quite repulsive. Fortunately, back home, after the sermons, our elders clarified matters, giving us the healer's explanation for the sermons and what lay behind the words that sounded hollow when delivered mechanically. On one of our evenings around the stove, Doña Silva gave the first commandment as an example. Love thy Lord God above all things. She said that Superficially, it would seem God needed the love of his faithful even more than his faithful needed him. According to the healer's interpretation, however, that commandment summarized the entire struggle of the warrior. To them, it represented their commitment to finding the source of awareness and consciously uniting with it. The ultimate goal of all living things, whether they know it or not, is to preserve awareness. That is why death, or the idea of death, causes such fear. The reason for living is to acquire experience and be filled with knowledge and awareness. That is the food of the eagle. At present, only sorcerers are aware of the possibility of disobeying the command to die and deliver their awareness to the eagle because they practice recapitulation. The second commandment was the next to be considered. It said, "Do not take God's name in vain." The words that generally end up mystifying people and causing the famous fear of God. Warriors, however, understand the real issue. They know the secrets of the power of words and use them for their purposes in a form that is reverent to all-encompassing force, reverent to God. Warriors know how to behave in front of power and approach it with the mandatory strength and humility. Someone in the room asked, "What does power of the word mean?" It means that every word matters, so be careful about what comes out of your mouth. But we will talk about that at another time, Doña Silva replied. For now, let us continue with the topic of God's law. Continuing with her analysis of the commandments, she quoted, "Honor thy father and thy mother." Unfortunately, there are those who hate and deny their very source, their parents, and then extend their grudge against all that exists, including the very earth that gives them shelter. This original resentment is the cause of many diseases. A warrior is aware of the tremendous price that was paid for his life, and in this most detached manner, honors and respects those who gave him existence. Only then can he fly free. We continued with the lessons through a number of sessions in order to learn the true meaning behind every commandment, so as to be able to understand what they really referred to. This made it much easier for me to commit to the work of religious conversion. I remember that Doña Silva gave us the task of hanging the 10 Commandments up on the wall in a visible place in our sleeping quarters, and learning them by heart. I thought I already knew them, but when I tried to write them down, I realized I didn't know them at all. So I copied them down on a sheet of paper after checking the source. Number 1, love thy Lord God above all things. Number 2, do not take God's name in vain. Number 3, keep the Sabbath holy. Number 4, honor thy father and thy mother. Number 5, do not kill. Number 6, do not commit adultery. Number 7, do not steal. Number 8, do not bear false witness. Number 9, do not suffer impure thoughts and desires. And 10, do not covet the possessions of others. In addition to the above, we were later given to learn the list of 7 deadly sins against which one must constantly be on guard. They are gluttony, lust, greed, arrogance, pride, vanity, and envy. In one of our meetings, the lecturer spoke at length about the modern man's situation, saying that the society had lost its way and that evil had taken root in the hearts of people. Dark forces were seeking to stop human evolution, and those enemy forces worked tirelessly to cloud people's minds and to change the purpose for which humans had been created. In such a way, the old commandments, based on morality and justice, got swapped for those of the man in the street that go something like this. First me, and next I. Love thy possessions and cling unto them. Lie and cheat to achieve thy goals. Satisfy thy desires by any means. Obtain profit at any cost. Always seek pleasure and personal gain. Take advantage of others and crush the weak. Destroy that which thou canst not get. If thou canst not accomplish something, do not let others accomplish it either. Part of that topic was the study of how the healers saw the world and what their 10 Commandments were. For that lesson, we walked up to some monumental caves in the interior which bore a strong resemblance to the vaults of Gothic churches. There, we were instructed in the commandments of energy, or 10 commandments of the healers, which are: number 1, be good. Number 2, be honest. Number 3, be moral. Number 4, be true. Number 5, be impeccable. Number 6, be patient. Number 7, be detached. Number 8, do good. Number 9, cultivate energy. And number 10, cultivate silence. Here, Don Melchior said, the commandments of the healers are like a map to help us save energy.